Good morning. Okay, yesterday I sent out kind of an overview of what we'll be doing for the rest of the class. Does anybody have any questions about it? What's coming up? This is for the last month of class. Of course, I'll be going over some assignments in more detail as we get closer to them. But for the most part, for this last month, we're working on your research paper. One of the most powerful uses of writing is to persuade people to agree with you. So that's what we're going to spend the rest of the class talking about, the ways that you can persuade people using argument. So I'd like to ask you guys, just based on what you see in the media, among people around you, what do you think the purpose of argument, or how is argument being used in the 21st century? And do a little brainstorming. So in the chat, type in whatever words and phrases that you associate with argument, or how people argue in the 21st century. Do not repeat anybody else's. You have to come up with your own if somebody else has already put it in there. So type in words and phrases associated with argument in the 21st century. We're going to discuss how argument operates. Everybody needs to type in at least one. Let's see. I'll type in one. Okay, Matt, translate for me. Goat in sports, what does that mean? Oh, so arguing over who's the greatest? Okay. Thank you. You mean within a sport? So you guys aren't arguing like the greatest athlete, you're arguing the greatest
like greatest like athlete in any sport ever. So like the debate between like you could say, for example, Michael Jordan versus LeBron James in basketball, or like, yeah.
Okay. Gun control. So yeah, there's some issues, right, that come up continually. Right? So there are things that we argue about all the time and never seem to resolve. Which team is better? Which athlete is better? Oh yeah, politics. Yeah. Mills. Yeah, the coronavirus and what we should do about it, how we should handle it, right? That's what's on everybody's minds lately. Movies. Yeah, so we argue over like everything from small to large issues, right? A lot of argument seems to be about winning. Morality? What do you mean by morality, Robert? Elections, yes. Do you think that argument has a positive or negative connotation? Both, yes. Oh, argue that they're a better person? Yeah, okay. I'd be afraid to argue I'm too great of a person, but I see what you're saying. Or that your views are better. Yeah, or court defenses. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's built into our system of politics, our legal system, right? Presenting arguments is very important. So I'd like to show you guys a TED Talk that talks about argument in sort of a different view than we usually might think of arguing, about who's winning and who's losing. So let's look at this TED Talk, and then we're going to discuss it.
My name is Cohen. What that means is that I argue. It's an important part of my life, and I like to argue. I'm not just an academic. I'm a philosopher. So I like to think that I'm actually good at arguing. But I also like to think a lot about arguing. And thinking about arguing, I've come across some puzzles. One of the puzzles is that as I've been thinking about arguing over the years, and it's been decades now, I've gotten better at arguing. But the more that I argue and the better I get at arguing, the more that I lose. That's a puzzle. And the other puzzle is that I'm actually okay with that. Why is it that I'm okay with losing? Why is it that I think that good arguers are actually better at losing? Well, there's some other puzzles. One is, why do we argue? Who benefits from arguments? When I think about arguments now, I'm talking about, let's call them academic arguments or cognitive arguments, where something cognitive is at stake. Is this proposition true? Is this theory a good theory? Is this a viable interpretation of the data or the text? And so on. I'm not interested really in arguments about whose turn it is to do the dishes or who's take out the garbage. We have those arguments too. I tend to win those arguments because I know the tricks. But those aren't the important arguments. I'm interested in academic arguments today. And here are the things that puzzle me. First, what do good arguers win when they win an argument? What do I win if I convince you that utilitarianism isn't really the right framework for thinking about that theories? So what do we win when we win an argument? Even before that, what does it matter to me whether you have this idea that Kant's theory works or Mill's the right emphasis to follow? It's no skin off my back whether you think functionalism is a viable theory of mind. So why do we even try to argue? Why do we try to convince other people to believe things that they don't want to believe? And is that even a nice thing to do? that a nice way to treat another human being? Try and make them think something they don't want to think? Well, my answer is going to make reference to 3 models for arguments. The first model, let's call this a dialectical model. Let's think of arguments as war, and you know what that's like. There's a lot of screaming and shouting and winning and losing, and that's not really a very helpful model for argument, but it's a pretty common and entrenched model for argument. But there's a second model for arguing, arguments as proofs. Think of a mathematician's argument. Here's my argument. Does it work? Is it any good? Are the premises warranted? Are the inferences valid? Does the conclusion follow from the premises? Opposition, no adversary, not necessarily any arguing in the adversarial sense. But there's a third model to keep in mind that I think is going to be very helpful, and that is arguments as performances, arguments in front of an audience. We can think of a politician trying to present a position, trying to convince the audience of something. But there's another twist on this model that I really think is important, namely that when we argue before an audience, sometimes the audience has a more participatory role in the argument. That is, arguments are also audience in front of juries who make judgment, decide the case. Let's call this the rhetorical model, where you have to tailor your argument to the audience at hand. You're presenting a sound, well-argued, tight argument in English before a francophone audience just isn't going to work. So we have these models: argument as war, argument as proof, and argument as performance. Of those 3, the argument as war is the dominant one. It dominates how we talk about arguments. It dominates how we think about arguments. Because of that, it shapes how we argue, our actual conduct in arguments. Now, when we talk about arguments, we talk in a very militaristic language. We want strong arguments, arguments that have a lot of punch, arguments that are right on target. We want to have our defenses up and our strategies all in order. We want killer arguments. That's the kind of argument we want. It is the dominant way of thinking about arguments. When I said talking about arguments, that's probably what you thought of, the adversarial model. But the war metaphor, the war paradigm model for thinking about arguments has, I think, deforming effects on how we argue. First, it elevates tactics over substance. Class in logic argumentation, you learn all about the subterfuges that people use to try and win arguments, the false steps. It magnifies the us versus them aspect of it. It makes it adversarial, polarizing. And the only foreseeable outcomes is triumph, glorious triumph, or abject, ignominious defeat. I think those are deforming effects. And worst of all, it seems to prevent things like negotiation, or deliberation, or compromise, or collaboration. Think about that one. Have you ever entered an argument thinking, let's see if we can hash something out rather than fight it out? Or can we work out together? And I think the argument as war metaphor inhibits those other kinds of resolutions to argumentation. And finally, this is really the worst thing. Arguments don't seem to get us anywhere. They're dead ends. They are what? Roundabouts or traffic jams or gridlock in conversation. We don't get anywhere. Oh, and one more thing. And as an educator, this is the one that really bothers me. If argument is war, then there's an implicit equation of learning with losing. And let me explain what I mean. Suppose you and I have an argument. You believe a proposition, P, and I don't. I say, well, why do you believe P? And you give me your reasons. And I object and say, well, what about? And you answer my objection. And I have a question. Well, what do you mean? How does it apply over here? And you answer my question. Now, suppose at the end of the day, I've objected, I've questioned, there's also counter considerations. And in every case, you responded to my satisfaction. And so, at the end of the day, I say, you know what? I guess you're right. P. So, I have a new belief. And it's not just any belief, but it's a well-articulated, examined, it's a battle-tested belief. Great cognitive gain. Okay, who won that argument? Well, the war metaphor seems to force us into saying, you won, even though I'm the only one who made any cognitive gain. What did you gain cognitively from convincing me? Sure, you got some pleasure out of it, maybe your ego stroked, maybe you get some professional status in the field, this arguer, but cognitively now, who was the winner? The war Our metaphor forces us into thinking that you're the winner and I lost, even though I gained. And there's something wrong with that picture. And that's the picture I really want to change if we can. So, how can we find ways to make arguments yield something positive? What we need is new exit strategies for arguments. But we're not going to have new exit strategies for arguments until we have new entry approaches to arguments. We need to think of new kinds of arguments. In order to do that, well, I don't know how to do that. That's the bad news. The argument is more metaphor is just, it's a monster. It's just taken up habitation in your mind, and there's no magic bullet that's going to kill it. There's no magic wand that's going to make it disappear. I don't have an answer. But I have some suggestions. Here's my suggestion. If we want to think of new kinds of arguments, what we need to do is think of new kinds of arguers. So, try this. Think of all the roles that people play in arguments. There's the proponent and the opponent in an adversarial dialectical argument. There's the audience in rhetorical arguments. There's the reasoner in arguments as proofs. All these different roles. Now, can you imagine an argument in which you are the arguer, but you're also in the audience, watching yourself argue? Can you imagine yourself watching yourself argue, losing the argument, and yet still at the end of the argument say, wow, that was a good argument? Can you do that? I think you can. And I think if you can imagine that kind of argument where the loser says to the winner and the audience and the jury can say, yeah, that was a good argument, then you have imagined a good argument. And more than that, I think you've imagined a good arguer, an arguer that's worthy of the kind of arguer you tried to be. Now, there was a lot of arguments. It takes practice to become a good arguer in the sense of being able to benefit from losing, but fortunately, I've had many, many colleagues who've been willing to step up and provide that practice for me. Thank you.
Okay. So what are some of the points that he presents about arguing? Did any of them surprise you? Or learning is losing, if argument is war and competitive. Because like he says, that war metaphor is a monster when it comes to arguing. You learn from arguments, yes. As much as I've tried to do that over the years, it's still hard to feel like I'm not losing if somebody else has more information that changes my mind. But I am gaining if I'm gaining the information, the new perspective, right? So we learn from arguments, so they don't have to be war. What else? You keep an open mind in an argument. Yeah, you walk away from an argument because we've come to think of it so much as war that, people get injuries and, feel bad or good about something. And then it's just like a battle that, war is generally less productive, right? This is true. Sometimes you're arguing with someone, like Robert's saying, and it's not that the arguments, are bad, but the people can use, bad techniques to try to trick people, logical fallacies, which we started talking about yesterday, arguments that have flawed logic are logical fallacies. So yesterday we talked about hasty generalizations, right? And people will use these because they know some people don't know that they're using bad arguments. When you draw broad conclusion, right, from too little evidence, from too small a sample size. So stereotypes about groups of people are one of the most common uses of that fallacy. Yeah, it's hard to walk away sometimes feeling like, I did actually have an argument on Facebook with some people that I felt like, because I had to remember to keep an open mind. And we were talking about the coronavirus response, specifically when the president was talking about opening up parts of the country at Easter. And so we were expressing our various views of this. And I felt like the people who we were arguing with were actually willing to listen to what I have to say. I think bad arguments come when the other side's not listening, or either side isn't listening, which is frequently the case. It's all posturing. Is arguing valuable? What he's saying, what do you get from it? Yes, they can be. Yes, you know, when you try to take the attitude that when you are having a sort of pro-con discussion with someone, they will help you see the world in a different way. This is very valuable to writers. So remember when we talked about one of the things reading for this class, you're reading to get information, but you're also reading to see how someone uses techniques to better write, stuff that you can steal. It's the same thing when you're arguing. One of the things that argument does is show you how somebody else can look at the world in a totally different way. Like you both are looking at the same set of facts, but you're seeing them in such a different way that it shows you when you communicate in writing, you have to take into account that not everybody sees the world the same way that you do. Because that's something I continually have to be reminded. Not everybody looks at the same set of facts I do and comes to the same conclusion. So I think one of the valuable parts of arguing is looking at how people view the world in different ways. Right. And being able to see if maybe there's some logic in their view of the world or some perspective in it from their experience that I haven't seen before. And like you're saying, you gain from that. You're like, oh, I can see how someone with that experience would look at that and come to that conclusion. And that's not an invalid conclusion to come to, right? So I think that's kind of the heart of academic arguments. It's less about war and it's more about persuasion, logic, and good arguing. right? Because our country has developed to be pretty polarized. So a lot of the people I see arguing with each other are not trying to convince each other. They're doing the argument as war metaphor, which is when I must win over you. Therefore, I'm not listening to what you have to say. I'm not considering your points. I am trying to overwhelm you with my point, which really doesn't serve the purpose of knowledge or of learning, right? Or even progress, right? If you've got two sides who are basically deadlocked within their own opinions and can't see the other side, there's a lack of progress. And we hope that we won't be like that, because then nothing gets done. So, for example, we have the two political parties who are pretty much deadlocked on their sides and aren't able to see each other's side or come to any kind of compromise, which means that not much gets done. Right? Because nobody's willing to compromise, or only one side's willing to compromise sometimes and the other side's not. It depends on your viewpoint, right? One way people frequently will take this argument as war, so we'll talk about another logical fallacy. You guys have probably seen this one a lot. Argument ad hominem. It's also called attacking the man. And I actually accused somebody I was arguing with this the other day. So when you attack someone personally, instead of talking about like the argument and the merits of the argument on both sides, that is called argument ad hominem. And if you stop talking about like the merits of the argument on both sides and start like calling people names or throwing around terms that are designed not to add knowledge to the discussion, but to insult people, then you've stopped arguing effectively, right? Those aren't reasons. They don't have evidence. They don't have logic. They're designed to inflame a discussion and basically derail it. So, can you think of some examples? Everyone go find an example to share of argument. Somebody's arguing and they're not discussing the issues, they're attacking the other side. I will find one as well. Robert. See if it'll let me open it. It's not. Will it let you paste a screenshot in there? Not sure. I've never tried it in the chat before. Okay. That's actually, yes. It's one kind of logical fallacy called argument tu quo qui, which is a form of ad hominem argument where basically you're saying because you have done something that seems hypocritical about the argument, you don't have any valid points, which is not true. I mean, it can hurt your ethos, which is like how much we trust you as the author. That might work, but it doesn't affect the validity of your argument. If you argue like maybe we should have meatless Monday, but you're still eating meat on other days, some people might say, well, that's hypocritical. But really, I mean, it doesn't invalidate your argument. Sorry, guys. Hold on one moment. Hey. You foster kid. Guys. Okay. All blondes are dumb. Well, that's back to the hasty generalization one, right? Because apparently this person has come across a few people who they think are blonde and are not intelligent, and so they're applying that to the whole group. We can't know anything, then how can you know that we can't know anything? Well, that just sounds like a rabbit hole. Yeah, but when you're accusing someone, oh, you guys are all just going to come across today, aren't you? Instead of talking about the merits of their argument. So for example, I was arguing with someone about the new aid bill that they're doing for the coronavirus, and what they said, they were debating about what should be in it. And the person who was arguing with me said, well, Piggy Pelosi, which is the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, wants her pork. So maybe if he gave me arguments that showed she was putting things in the bill, then those would be things that I could say, you have a point. But calling her a name, right, isn't evidence of wrongdoing or evidence that's going to support his argument, right? But yes, calling someone an idiot instead of dealing with the argument that they're actually presenting is not an argument in response, right? It ignores anything about the merits of the argument. You'll see it's also called mudslinging. Just any kind of name calling. Because generally when you do this and you start calling people names, then you really degenerate into the argument as war, which doesn't really add anything to the knowledge of either party. But it certainly can get you off track, right? So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Claire McCaskill. She's a politician from Missouri. She was the senator. But a long time ago when she was first running for Senate, the opposition party sent out this big pamphlet that had like an entire layout of her house on it, the new house that she was building with her husband, which was a very nice house, right? It had like an air-conditioned garage. It had, it was not a small house. not the house that, many of us probably could afford. So why did they do that? What did that have to do with her policies as senator? Why did they show me a blueprint of her house? Right. So they're, I guess, making the implicit argument that because she has money, she's not one of us, right? Now the person she was running against was not poor either. So then, so why would they want me why would they want me to see that she's wealthy? What do we think about wealthy people? Do we want the wealthy at least to represent us in government and politics? Some people do. Some people are like, they've been successful, so maybe they know what they're doing. But have you guys seen this? What's that about? Eat the rich. You guys seen this one? It's a little slogan I've seen going around. This does not seem friendly. I'm going to take a poll. Do you like rich people? Yes or no? No. Hard no. Okay. We'll get into the reasons. I'm just like going for the question. No. No. Ah, that's a good point, Matt. It's okay if you do. Many people admire people like Bill Gates and other people who have, it's okay if you don't. Yeah, it depends on how they use their money, like Adeline is saying. A lot of people are criticizing certain wealthy billionaires who are not helping their employees during this time. Some people are praising those who are. You got Bill Gates trying to help. Depends on the person, which is probably a more reasonable view of it, Alexis, which is you actually look at them as individuals instead of just like big bags of money, right? If you worked for it versus if you inherited it, nepotism, things like that. Yeah, wealth can corrupt people, right? So sometimes we see them both ways, as successful or as taking advantage of other people. If they don't pay their workers, like a lot of people argue the Walmart owners, they have a lot of people on food stamps up until recently, and that recently they've made some changes because of public pressure. But basically, we were subsidizing their workers while they were making a lot of money. So yeah, if you can associate them with something that a lot of people don't like, then we don't listen to their argument because you hurt their ethos. Ethos is the appeal of the arguer. Okay, we're running out of time. Tomorrow, read the chapter and take the quiz over argument and subject